We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the Fightins here. The Fightins. Said.
Should.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
We're talking about the Fightins. It's episode 147, but listen, the city is electric with Red October, and we're here to talk about it all. Eric, little pre-show conversation. It's kind of hard to contain the excitement here, but 6:07 tonight, this Brave series is going to kick off, and this city is just here for it all.
Yeah, Don, I cannot freaking wait. I've already listened to, half of the Clubhouse Phil's Win playlist. I'm fired up. It's going to be a long time to wait till 6, but I'm ready for it. I cannot wait.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to have to go outside. It's nice enough that I can go outside and kill a little bit of time here, maybe get some yard work done. But my mind is just going to be on the game all day long. But let's start with recapping the Marlins series, right? We both kind of talked, and this is this is the second show for us in a week. The thoughts on how the Marlins series played out, because I think it played out kind of the way we thought it might.
Yeah, I really don't think it could have went any better, right? Just sweeping them, getting it out of there, not having to play on Thursday was big. Not having to use that third pitcher was big. And it was a time where there wasn't like anything where I was really like sweating. It's like a lot of Phillies games this year, we've had to like sweat those later innings or their comebacks and what have you. But it was nice. They got out. They got out to the lead. They kind of held it. And it really couldn't have went better. They got to save a lot of the bullpen. Starting pitchers looked awesome. Wheeler absolutely dominated. Nola looks like he's maybe found something. He's been good since September. And he looked awesome the other night. There were a couple hard hit balls in the first couple innings to left field. And I'm like, are they going to get one of these eventually? But right. He settled in. He didn't have a ton of strikeouts. Wheeler had a lot of strikeouts. Nola, I think, only had 3. But, pitch to contact, let your defense do the work. And it worked out. Let the offense jump out ahead. And, man, that's exactly what they did. They had to handle the Marlins quickly and easily, and that was a big confidence booster, I think, for the team and for the fan base. I think it scared the Braves, too.
Hey, yeah, listen, you did put a little bit of fear in the Braves, right? Because you get Zach Wheeler, right? Really, really impressive start in game 1. Go 6 2/3. You could have argued that he probably could have finished that one, that that last inning, but only gives up 5 hits, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts. Just he looked every bit of dominant, and I think you saw that right from. There was, I can't remember if it was at the end of game 1 or at the beginning of game 2 when they were interviewing the Marlins manager. And I think the quote he said was like, I don't think anybody was hitting him that night. Like, his stuff was just electric. And, the way that they, Bohm gets the double in the third to, score Rojas, you get that early lead, even though they had opportunities in the first couple innings where they could have pounced early. They have the first inning where you get Schwarber and Turner on. you get them the second and third, and then they don't score. You really feel like I felt fortunate that like they're not that didn't come back to bite them as a missed opportunity to put runs on the board.
Yeah, that was like the only, I think, maybe negative part of the series. And because it really had a chance to kind of bury the Marlins early there. When you had second and third, no outs, your top two guys are setting the table. Luckily, like you said, though, it didn't come back to bite them. That Rojas at bat where he gets on and scores the first run. He's such an electrifying player for being his first year. And the fact that, defense, obviously, we could talk about his defense all day, but his offense was always the knock on him, right? But he's making things happen. He's just like an electrifying guy. I think, having that not that, most guys in this team are old, but he, just kind of manufacturing that run, right? Stealing second, then being able to score. It was awesome. So he made that happen.
For only having played half a season in the major leagues right now, he really carries himself like a guy who's played for a decade in terms of like the way that he's assimilated himself into the clubhouse, the way that he carries himself, and I think that to me is attributed to the team. The team didn't make him feel like he had to earn everything and feel like an outcast. He came in and they realized that they've earned every bit of everything that he's got. And I look at, you get, and then you follow up, I think the most important thing, right? Because then you get Wheeler go out, shuts them down in the third, or shuts them down in the fourth, and then they come up in the fourth, and Stott gets the single that scores Real Muto, or scores, and then Castellanos gets thrown on at home. And that's where I want to touch on like the Dusty Wathan thing, right? Because that was, if there was anything that came out of game one, there was a lot of conversation around the confidence in the third base coach.
Yeah, there were some questionable things there. I mean, it's I guess because we won, it's one of those things where it's like he did not have a great game as third base coach. I think if we lost, it would be magnified even more because I know Schwarber probably scored on Turner's double. Probably. He's not a fast guy. I kind of get why. But then even if he gets thrown out at the plate, right, you still have Turner on second or third if he advances on the throw with one out. Right. So, you still could theoretically get that run. The Harper blowing through the stop sign was hilarious. I don't even know why a third base coach would bother telling Harper what to do. He's going to do what he has the instincts. He's earned it. Sometimes will he make boneheaded base running mistakes? He absolutely will. But I think that's one of the things that, is it even aggravating? I don't know, just because it's so fun watching him just be so aggressive all the time. And, he's not going to listen to that. If he thinks he can score, he's going to score. And he scored pretty easily. Like, I don't know why Dusty was holding him up there. And then I wonder if the Castellanos send was kind of, making up for the fact that he didn't send Schwarber and try to stop Harper. So I don't know. I think it would be more. I think he'd be more under magnifying glass if they lost that game. But because they won, I think it's maybe a learning experience. See what happens.
Yeah. And this was a game they won in for this season was a not traditional way for them to win, right? Because no home runs, right? It was a lot of small ball. You get the offensive contribution from Christian Pache, which, whenever you're getting offensive contributions from him, that's a bonus. And he and Rojas at the back of the lineup for those two games really helped turn the lineup over, getting those guys in positions. And I think the thing that I love the most is that like when Christian Pache gets pinch hit for Brandon Marsh, right? He's the first guy that's standing on the top of the dugout. So you almost like that communication piece was huge because the communication between, to say like, hey, listen, we're going to get to like the 6th or 7th when your spot comes up, we're going to pinch hit Marsh and he's going to go in and play defense. That was huge for me.
Yeah, it is. And having that as an option is huge too, because you're not sacrificing any. You're not. I shouldn't say any defense. Yeah. I think Pache and Rojas are both better than Marsh defensively, but it's not like you're putting in someone who's going to be a major downgrade defensively. Yeah. And just being able to kind of switch those guys in and out is massive. Pache's first at bat in that game was awful. He swung at 3 pitches, did not make contact with a single one, and didn't take a ball. Second at bat was great though. He makes that happen, and then later scores. So, that's what you need him to do, right? You're not expecting him to go 4 for 4. You're not expecting him to,
Right.
hit home runs, but just, don't hurt the team basically. Right. And help however you can. And, he plays solid. He plays solid defense out there. So yeah, I like that. I like having Marsh and him kind of in that interchangeable role. It seems like Rojas kind of has solidified his spot out there in center field now, which I do like that too. He's played his way there. He deserves it. And I think he's your best defensive center fielder on this team.
Oh God, yeah. And listen, and then let's talk about the bullpen for a little bit, right? Because you go from Wheeler to Alvarado, Hoffman, and then Kimbrel. 2 hits, no runs. That no earned runs, right? So that to me screams of like those are the guys. Like if those are the first 3 guys out of the pen, those are the guys that Rob Thompson has the most confidence in. And I love the fact that like right out of the gate, you go in there and you shut them down, right? Alvarado in only an inning, right, gets 2 of those outs or strikeouts. So I love where this bullpen goes in terms of if you can get the starting pitching into this, to give you 6+, and then you have those guys to go to, you're not going to see all those fringe guys that were blowing leads in games. You're going to see, these guys that they count on in these high leverage spots.
Yeah, exactly. Alvarado looked good again. I think, when he struggled a little bit when he came back from the IL, but I think that was just kind of like getting back into it. He looked good. And I just love how fired up he gets on the mound. He's so fun to watch
awesome.
there. So he's awesome. I love that. Hoffman has just been Hoffman all year. He's been great. And then, Kimbrel is one of those guys where it's always going to be a little interesting. The intentional balk thing is kind of
that was wild
to watch, and like you could tell, I'm like I was watching it, and I'm like, okay, he's trying. Like the first one was definitely he tried to balk first, and then the umpire called it. So then he's like, all right, I'm just gonna drop the ball, and so it was so funny how he was like it was clear as day what he's trying to do there. But I don't know. It
was almost like he said, like, I'm gonna balk.
Yes,
please just like
exactly.
Can we just get this
put
over
up a finger and like make him go? Yeah, exactly. So it that was interesting. But I don't get it. I know certain guys have their styles of pitching or whatever. I guess he just doesn't like having that guy, on second trying to get signs, I guess. But it is what it is. Those 3 guys I have faith in. Game 2, Kerkering comes in and looks good. So I like where we're at in the bullpen right now. I think our bullpen, I know we're going to get to the Braves in a minute, but I like where our bullpen's at right now.
Yeah. But like, so we can go right to game 2, right? Nola almost statistically outduels, Wheeler, because Nola goes 7, only gives up 3, 1 walk, but 3 strikeouts, right? But then they go right to Kerkering, right out. Like that says a lot to me. Like they trust his stuff. They see how electric his stuff is to be able to put him in a high leverage spot like that in a playoff game, considering again, he's a guy that started the year in single A. And then you get the inning from Gregory Soto and he looked great.
Yeah, I'm curious to wonder how they would have handled the Kerkering situation if it wasn't for the Stock Grand Slam, because that puts him up 7 versus 3. I don't know.
Right.
I wonder, do you think they bring him in if it's a 3-run lead versus a 7-run lead? I think that was kind of Thompson's like playoff test for Kerkering to see how he was going to handle it. And he handled it awesome. I mean, again, I know I said it on Monday, but the fact that he sets up the fastball with the, slider sweeper, whatever you want to call it, is really interesting. And I think it's something that a lot of these guys aren't used to. So he's just got really good stuff, and he seems really calm and collected on the mound for being, not even being in the league for, a month yet. So that was interesting. Soto looked good. He gave up a couple of those hits. I think you're just going to have to, I think Soto just is what he is. He's got electric stuff. He's going to be a little erratic at times, but he's a guy, when you have a lead like that, throw him in there because he can get out. Yeah. Just kind of always be ready for a potential meltdown. But at the same time, he could be really good just as easily. So I like seeing that. So basically we got to see 5 relievers in those first 2 games, and I was impressed with every single performance. So I think that's a great way to ride into the division series here.
The movement on the Kirkland pitches are wild.
Yeah.
It's sharp, it's fast. But every pitch seems like it's very, like the movement is like very calculated, which is really, really impressive to see from a guy who doesn't have the experience that some of these, veteran guys have.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really curious to see how Thompson will use him going forward, if they will put him in some more like closer game situations. And I think honestly he could probably handle it. Now the Braves offense is a completely different animal than the Marlins.
Very, very different. Yeah.
But again, they have not seen him, so it could be an interesting thing. I mean, obviously you film and everything, but it's different seeing the ball actually come out of the guy's hand when you're in the batter's box there. So I think Thompson, obviously trusts his guys, so I think we'll use him in any type of situation there.
Right. So game 2. So now in game 2, right, you're looking at, this is your opportunity to kind of just step on their neck, right? And the Nola conversation, he kind of shut that down. He took that really high leverage spot to be able to come in game 2 and really solidify that he's a guy that you can count on in the playoffs. But talk to me about the way that this game played out, because, the Marlins couldn't get anything going. And then you've got the monumental moment from Bryson Stott.
Yeah. So I was at both Tuesday and Wednesday's game, and originally I thought, game 1 was it was just because it was the first game. I think everyone was like real fired up. It was real electric in there. Game 2, I think in the beginning it was stuff like I was actually texting my buddies, and I'm like, it doesn't seem like Garrett is really getting rattled by the fan base here like Luzardo did in game 1. Eventually, though, by the 4th inning, I think when he started getting a little erratic, starting to walk some guys and bounce some pitches, you could kind of just feel the energy in the stadium start to change. And then obviously, the Real Muto home run kind of jolted everyone, and then it's like then it was back on. And the Stott grand slam was just so cool to see. It was great for him, 2nd grand slam in Phillies postseason history. So it was just massive moment, and I really think once that happened, that was the end of the game. I mean, the crowd was electric. It was so loud in that place, and I think that was just a shock to the system of the Marlins, and that was where we won game 2 there.
Yeah, listen, you get the Schwarber double in the 3rd, right, and then you get the Turner single, right, to go up 2-0. And then the Real Muto, right? That's one of those pitches that like it was gone instantaneously. And then
that thing.
It like he just crushed it. And that's a guy that like if his bat gets hot and he's batting towards the middle of that lineup, and you have the firepower to match the Braves, even as good as the Braves have been. And we'll talk about this in a second, but like they have the offensive firepower to keep up with them top to bottom. But the Stott home run, like that to me was like the seminal moment of that playoff, obviously of this playoffs, but for his career, like that moment, you saw like every ounce of emotion come out in that one play. And, I'm sure like the next day I probably, you the same, probably watched it, no lie, a couple hundred times, saw it with the announcers, without the announcers, just the crowd noise. I found the Spanish broadcast, like anything I could do to just consume people's content, because that moment just like it really just solidifies where this fan base is in terms of the emotional investment that they put in to support this team.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was like you said, I think it was almost like a career defining moment for Stott, if that makes any sense. I know it's only a few years into his career, but like think back, that's going to be a momentous, thing to think about for
Yeah.
Philly's postseason history now for forever. I mean, we still think back to the
Oh, yeah.
Victorino one in 08. So I think that's going to be something there. I think that was huge for his confidence because he was scuffling a little bit coming into the playoffs. But
Absolutely.
he looked good in the wild card round. Defensively, he looked good too. But yeah, that grand slam was just it was awesome. Like you said, I watched the videos probably a couple hundred times. The one without the announcers and just the crowd noise and them singing "A-OK" before he comes up. They had to do it twice because the Marlins had a mound visit. So it was. I think that I was reading. Todd Zalecki put out an article today that kind of broke down minute by minute of that video, and he was showing Stott, and Stott and Marsh and Stubbs were kind of giving their feedback on everything. It was a really good article. If you haven't had a chance to check it out yet,
yeah, I'm gonna have to go check that out today.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. It breaks it down between this time and this time, what's happening. And Stott basically, he even said after the game, he pretty much blacked out running around the bases. So watching the video, remembered, had him remember what was going on. But just seeing it, and he even said, watching it without the announcers. Actually, I think Stubbs said it. It's kind of more raw because that's what they hear, right? They don't hear the announcers when they're on the field. So just running around the bases, that's what you hear. You hear the crowd noise. You see your teammates going nuts. He's like, I couldn't even hear myself yelling to the bullpen or yelling to the dugout. It was that loud in there. So just a really cool experience all around. And I just love how the players react to the fan base and how that happens. I think it is a home field advantage. I mean, it's not even just a Homer Philly thing to say. Like you're even seeing on national media outlets. The Citizens Bank Park is without a doubt probably the best home field advantage in baseball that you can have in the playoffs.
Listen, so you were obviously that you were down at both games, but like hearing some of the things transpire in the broadcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard, and I may be wrong, but I think it was Jeff Passan compared the atmosphere in Citizens Bank Park at the Phillies playoff games to an SEC rivalry game, which doesn't happen in baseball at all. And then there was someone else in the commentary during the game that said there's a home field advantage, and then there's playing the Phillies at home, and he goes, and they're not even close. So I think what's happening is the national view of the Philadelphia fans is shifting. And I think that has a lot to do with the players, not just with the Phillies, with the Eagles, but you see the players acknowledging how important the fans are and where they recognize that excitement, that energy is, that passion is it's a shared experience. They want you to win as much as you want to win. And they see that investment. And I look at that and go you're not hearing as much of the stupid shit, the snowballs of Santa and the all the things about the jail that was in the vet. And you're not hearing that anymore because the shift of what the players are relaying to say, that's not our fans. Our fans are passionate. They show up, right? And look no further than some of the images around Major League Baseball in Minnesota, in Tampa, and where else? What am I missing?
Arizona beat them. Why am I blanking?
Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee, yeah.
In Milwaukee, right? Compare all three atmospheres, right? The three others are not even close to what the atmosphere was at that game, right? And the disgrace that is the fan base of the Rays is just atrocious. To have a playoff game that not only doesn't sell out, but you have, I think it was 14,000 on game one, and then 17,000, 19,000 on game two.
Yeah, I think it was 19,000, yeah.
That's a disgrace. How do you not have if I were the Rays and I knew that I had only sold 19,000 tickets, I'd literally have people just driving around handing out tickets just so you have people in the building. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't sell them, they'll probably come in and buy shit anyway. But that like there's a reason why people are talking about, them potentially, a couple years ago, they were talking about them going back to Montreal and relocating that franchise. I feel so good about where this team is, the momentum that they're riding right into this Brave series. Because I feel like if there's an advantage in this Brave series, the fact that it's a short series, that it's a 5-game series, all the Phillies have to do is flip one of those games in Atlanta. If they can, and for me, right, and we can roll right into it. Game 1, you're going to see Ranger Suarez and Spencer Strider. And then in game 2, you're going to see Max Fried and Zach Wheeler. I like my chances to flip one of those 2 games. And then you put the Braves right in the same situation they were last year, where they got to come here. And they feel the pressure that if this series, they have to flip one of those 2 games. Otherwise, the series is over.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I think they can easily take one of these games in Atlanta. I think pitching matchup wise on paper, it's more likely to be game 2. But I just think and we were talking about this pre-show too, the Braves have not played a meaningful game in so long. There's rust. I mean, you can simulate games all you want. You can, go through batting practice. You can take drills on the field. There is nothing that compares to actual being on the field in a game, let alone a playoff game, right? Ranger is as cool, calm, and collected as it gets. I think the Braves offense are probably going to get him a little bit. I'm thinking he's going to give up 3 or 4 runs. But Strider, he strikes guys out. But he's been hittable toward the end of the season. He hasn't, he hasn't pitched seriously in a little while. So I really think the Phillies have a chance to jump on him early, and they absolutely have to attack him early. I think get him out of the game before the 6th inning, and we're in great shape. I saw that comment. He doesn't like to pitch in front of people. So I really wish that I don't know if I don't think he might line up for game 4. Actually, he may be able to pitch game 4.
So what I saw was that that you would see that you would see Strider and get that what they're trying to do is try to line those games up so that he can pitch in game 4 and Fried would pitch in game 5.
Exactly, which would make sense. I think that's basically what the Phillies are doing too, because I think Wheeler would set up then to pitch game 5 as well if it gets to that point. Hopefully it doesn't, because it would be awesome. Huge advantage if we win in 4. Wheeler can start game 1 of the NLCS then. So winning in 4 is pretty big, I think.
But inject that shit into my veins.
Absolutely.
To have Strider have to pitch here after the experience of last year and the way the comments, whether, and I know that there was some stuff that came out that a lot of those things about not having fans was kind of in jest.
Yes.
But that doesn't matter at all.
Right.
We will selectively remember the quote and not remember the context of any of it at all. And that there's going to be 47,000 people there literally just chanting his name the entire time. I don't even care if he's out of the game. They'll probably keep chanting it after he's out of the game. But the Braves clinched the division on September 13th. It is now October 7th.
Almost
a month. So it's been 3+ weeks since they've played a meaningful game, right? Because they essentially at that point had the record to be able to clinch the number 1 seed too. So, and I heard a lot of Braves fans bitching about the fact they didn't even realize that it doesn't reseed, that that playoff bracket is static. And they were upset that there's a team that's worse than the Phillies that's still out there. Why are we not playing them? Which tells me that there's something in their head about their matchup in terms of where they are in terms of matching up with the Phillies.
Yeah, they definitely. I don't think any team wanted to come in and play here. I mean, we talked
about
the
Diamondbacks.
Right. There were teams throwing games at the end of the season, so they didn't have to come here. So I think it's definitely one of those things where every team knows about it. And like you said, Strider probably didn't mean that he doesn't want to pitch in front of fans, right? It was probably in jest, like you said. But you give Philly fans that ammunition, and we are going to run with it, right? If he's there and if he's pitching on the mound in game 4 in Citizens Bank Park, he is going to hear so much noise. He's going to hear his name. Every mistake he makes is going to be magnified by that fan base. It's going to be insane. It's going to be awesome. I'd rather just win in 3, but it's the Braves. I'm not expecting a sweep. But But yeah, like you
stack
said,
that shit right in the middle of the fucking bulletin board.
yes, exactly. Put that there, and I don't like the players. Obviously, are gonna probably like it, but I think for more so that quote was more so for the fans than it was for the players.
Mm-hmm.
But the Phillies beat Strider last time. Now I know he was not 100% healthy in last year's playoffs, but I just think like some of these guys don't necessarily always have that mentality where they can pitch in those big spots. This is Strider's chance to prove people wrong, because I think, again, he wasn't 100% healthy. I understand that. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball, but this is his chance where he's kind of like, he has to prove that he can pitch in a big time situation here. Remember, Kershaw wasn't great in the postseason for most of his career, right? He had like over 5 ERA or something like that for most of his postseason starts.
Yeah.
So some guys just can't do it. I'm very curious to see what happens today. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I really think, like I said earlier, you got to knock Strider out of this game early, because when it comes to bullpens, we match up better. We've already broken apart the back end of their bullpen a few times. Just in that series we played them in September. They're obviously playing to win, right? They're putting in their back end guys trying to win. I like the way we stack up. We need to get to their starters early, because I think on paper, our starting pitching depth and bullpen depth is deeper than the Braves. It's the offense that scares me.
Yeah, and listen, we're gonna write it right. The article that was published, and forgive me, who's the guy who published the article?
Bob Wankel.
Bob Wankel. Right.
Yes.
So the basis of the article, right, starts off with acknowledging the fact that the Braves had a historically impressive season. Right, they're the first team in Major League Baseball history to finish with a slugging percentage over 500. 5 guys finished the season with a slugging percentage over 500. Right, you've got the power and the offensive impression from Matt Olson, Acuna, Ozuna, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies. Right, very impressive. And the Phillies don't have a guy who slugged over 500. Right, Harper was close, 499. Castellanos at 476. Schwarber at 474. Right, the Braves tie the Major League Baseball record with 317 home runs. They tie the 2019 Twins, which I actually had to go back and look up because I didn't even realize how impressive that offensive season was for them. Mm-hmm. But like, I understand all this, right? I understand that's in place, right? The Phillies also had 6 guys that hit over 20 home runs. So where they might not have had, right, the concentrated power, right, it was spread out a little bit over the roster, right? I'm sure if Harper had played a full season, his home run numbers will be up. Mm-hmm. You had Turner, who struggled at the beginning of the season, but has now corrected that, and his numbers are trending in the right direction. Listen, the Braves had 7 guys hit 20 plus. They had 5 hit 33 or more. The series that they played at Citizens Bank Park, where literally they were just, it was like batting practice, like literally just crushing balls left and right. But you're also not going to face Michael Lorenzen. You're not going to face Christopher Sanchez. You're not going to face any of those back end of the rotation guys. So, acknowledge the fact that the Braves had a really impressive offensive season, but since August, right, the Braves have hit 107 home runs. The only other team in Major League Baseball to hit 107 is the Phillies.
Yep.
In the last 56 games, the Phillies are 6th in batting average and 2nd in slugging. The Phillies bullpen, ERA of 3.08. The Braves, 4.08.
That's a huge difference.
That's a full run difference, right? And the Phillies, the WAR of the Phillies bullpen is 3rd best in Major League Baseball. The Braves, 11th. So, to me, right now, as it sits, all the Braves wins, that 100-plus wins, that goes out the window. They haven't played a meaningful game in 3+ weeks. This team has been playing meaningful baseball up until the last week of the season. And they've got these 2 games in hand. While I acknowledge the fact that those numbers are really impressive, this is not a David and Goliath thing. Like, this is not the Braves and like the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like these two teams are more closely matched than I think a lot of people want to acknowledge because of where those season totals kind of rank them. And right, the fact that like they finished the season with a 14-game spread with the Phillies. Just talk to me, because I feel like I don't want to spin myself in circles here, like trying to like make up something that I feel like I'm not. But I'm looking at this going, this is a lot more evenly matched than I think people want to acknowledge.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think our offense, you look at it from top to bottom, the Braves offense had an incredible regular season. It's going to be something that, the pitchers are going to, everyone's aware of it, right? Everyone knows.
Right.
I was watching a replay of game 2 for the wild card series yesterday after I got home from work. And one of the announcers mentioned something, and it's true. I feel like it's mentioned every postseason, but one of the announcers mentioned something, how, good pitching beats good hitting in the postseason. And that's where I think we have that advantage. You can neutralize an offense sometimes with good pitching. And in the playoffs, you're only using, your best. You don't, and especially like you said, in a short series here, think pitching wise, we only need 3 starters this series because of the way everything lines up, right? So we're going to use Ranger, see how he does. Wheeler and Nola are obviously going to get their starts and then see what happens. I'm assuming Ranger will pitch game 4, assuming he doesn't, get absolutely shelled today or something. But, pitching wise, I think we match up just as well. Fried has that blister on his finger. Obviously, it's not a major injury, but it's one of those nagging things that could cause some problems. Bryce Elder, we obviously have an advantage there, Nola over him. So I like that. I like our offense. And going back to the numbers over the regular season, Harper didn't play until mid-May it was, and even then you could tell like he wasn't 100%, right? All he could do is hit. He didn't have any power until the end of July or August, or so. He only had like 3 home runs up to the All-Star break or something like that. Turner didn't do much up until August. Schwarber had his ups and downs in the beginning of the season. The Phillies offense was terrible really up until June. So the first 2 months of the season, you're looking at them losing all those numbers in that kind of matchup with the Braves there. So I do think our offense lines up pretty evenly. I mean, Schwarber can hit home runs, so can Matt Olson, right? Acuna is obviously one of the best players in baseball right now, but you got Harper and Turner, who are also up in probably the top 10, 15 players in baseball when they're at their best. So, it's one of those things where I think we do match up pretty evenly here. I don't want to go in overly confident because obviously, you look at at Vegas and everything, and we're the underdogs. But you're right. It's not as drastic of an underdog as we were even going into last postseason, right? The Braves coming into last postseason were World Series champs, so we were huge. Looked at as underdogs in that series, and look what happens. We're a better team this year, especially in the pitching department. So I don't want to get overconfident here, but I like our chances just as much as the Braves. I would put this series at even, right? It's whoever gets off to a hot start, I think, is who's going to win this series.
Like I look at this and I don't feel like I'm like piling up fool's gold. Like I feel like if I look at this objectively and I try to it's hard, right? Because your passion is with one of these teams,
right?
But when I try to take a step back, I'm like, this is not as a big of a gap as I think a lot of people think, right? And to look at, so when you look at the playoff roster. Not a whole lot of changes from one to the other. Anything stand out to you?
No, not necessarily. You're right. I think it's pretty much the same. It's a shorter series, so I think what's really important is not worrying so much about pitching. Like I said, and I've said it now 3 times, but the pitching I think lines up in our favor. Offense is where we really need to be stepping up evenly with the Braves here. And so I think, it's you want to put your best players out there. I get it. I think we're in good shape there. So I'm fine with and I trust Thompson right now. Honestly, It's weird. Like I know he's made some questionable decisions over the course of the season when it comes to like bullpen management and lineups and stuff like that. People get all over him, but he's the manager for this team. I know he's not the only one who makes the roster decisions for this. I know it's front office guys too, but really the whole culture, right? From Middleton to Dombrowski to Sam Fold to the scouting guys. I trust everything this organization is doing. The culture of this organization has been so good. So I'm okay with whatever they decide to do. Just put us in a position to win, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, listen. So with Strider starting game one, how do you think they handle the outfield positions? Because Castellanos is going to start, Rojas is going to start. How do you think they handle that other outfield spot?
I think it's got to be Marsh. You got to put him in, lefty against the righty there. So I think what we'll see is we'll see Marsh in today, and give him that chance to play out in left field, and then probably Fried's the lefty. Maybe see Pache again tomorrow. So I think it has to be Marsh today. He didn't get a chance to play in game two. He's one of your team leaders in OPS over the course of the season. Mm-hmm. I think he's the guy that today.
And I think, to me, right, if depending on how he plays today, you might say, hey, listen, we're just going to ride. If he's got a hot bat, that's the type of thing where you're like, you know what, I'll take my chances with a hot bat versus the righty lefty, like that analytical piece. And then, you always have that option, right? I feel like in this series, right, you might not see nearly as much of Christian Pache, right? He might be that late inning, pinch runner guy. But the one thing that stuck out to me, the guy that was added to the roster that wasn't on that short series wildcard roster was Lorenzen, right? Which just gives them, to think about how, when you have a short series and you limit the amount of started, you're only going to use 3 starting pitchers, right? How much deeper that makes your bullpen, right? Because now you can bring Taijuan Walker out of the bullpen, right? You can bring Lorenzen out of the bullpen. You can bring guys like Strom. You can bring those guys if you need to. Hopefully you don't, but
right.
That deepens your bullpen and makes your bullpen stronger, which has already been a strong suit going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's always good to have those guys kind of out there, but if we have to see Walker or Lorenzen coming out of the bullpen, I think that means one of our starters got rocked.
I think you're right.
So while it's good to have them there in kind of that insurance policy, I know it doesn't sound good, but I don't want to see them.
No, you're right.
I want to see, now Wheeler and Nola both went, into the 7th, and Nola finished the 7th in the wild card series. But I think, if we can get guys going 6-7 innings, we don't necessarily need those guys. They do their jobs. Then you can bring in guys like Kerkering, Kimbrel, Hoffman, Alvarado, Soto, and even Strom. I don't mind. I would not mind. Strom's pitched well as long as he's just pitching kind of that 1 inning relief role, not the multiple innings anymore. But I trust Strom getting outs. So I think you got 6 decent guys there that I would use before using Walker or Lorenzen out of the pen. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at here. And as long as the starters can go 6 innings, I don't really see a need for them, and I don't really want them there. And it stinks to say it, but Walker kind of went through that spurt in the middle of the season where he's pitching kind of well, but he started off horribly and he ended horribly, and we still have him for a few more years. So I'm like, I don't really want to be down on the guy, and he seems like an awesome dude, seems like a fun guy and a nice guy and everything. So, but we got to win games, and he does not put you in a position to win games right now.
No, and when I'm looking at his stats versus the Braves, right, his ERA is 6.
Yeah, no.
He was one. He's got a 1-0 record, which to me doesn't really tell me a whole lot. But
I think
only
he led the team in wins, didn't he? So
leads the team in wins. But like he, in the games that he pitched against the Braves, right, only pitches 12 innings. I don't know, something about it just says like I think you're right. If you end up seeing one of those guys, the game has gone one of 2 ways, right? It's
right.
The lead is larger than we want it to be. On either end, right? It could be the Phillies up by a lot, or it could be the Braves up by a lot. But I think in terms of that, I really feel like this is the type of series where you got to keep your foot on the gas the entire time, because this Braves team, with the power that they have this season, they can put up a silly crooked number on a whim and not even think about it.
Yeah, exactly. You like you said, you have to stay accelerating this entire time. You cannot let off, because this team will not let you do that. They'll punish you for any mistake you make. And but I think the Phillies are prepared for that. I think Thompson's prepared for that. Playing them last year in the same division series and everything is important. We have the postseason experience, and I like where it matches up. But yeah, I think our bullpen, we want to see a few guys before we see some of those other guys.
Oh God, yeah. Well, listen. Let's give a prediction, right? I thought in the Marlins series, right? I thought I was going to get Trey Turner. He didn't have a bad series, but didn't have the series that I thought he might. You were talking about Castellanos, and Castellanos had a pretty impressive series. What do you feel like is, if you had to identify a player or a group of players that becomes really important for this series? Who is it, and then how do you think the series plays out?
So I think Harper is key in this series. Him and probably Schwarber too. You're going to face a tough righty, especially to start it off. And I really think that game one momentum is huge. Harper didn't have a great offensive series in the wild card series, and Harper just doesn't go through extended, poor offensive things. I think he's going to have a pretty good series here. I think Schwarber showing some power is going to be big, because we're going to give up home runs. We just have to accept that, but we're going to need to hit it too. So Schwarber's going to have to hit a home run. So I think I think Harper's going to have a huge series. I think he hits at least 2 home runs this series. And I think, are you asking for a final series prediction too?
Yeah, what do you think the series, prediction? How do you think it plays out?
I think Phillies in 4.
Okay. It's kind of where I'm feeling, right? I thought this is going to be a Phillies in 4. I think they flip one of these 2 games. And then I think they come home, and I think they take care of business. I think their goal is to not go back to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. So they go there with this intention. I think they do. I think they do take the series. I think they flip it in 4 games. For me, the guy or guys that I'm looking at, I'm looking at the back end of this bullpen. The back end of this bullpen to me is key. If they're coming in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, they got to come in and they got to minimize mistakes, and they got to shut down. They got to shut down them offensively, which I know is a really tough task, because there's no break in this lineup. You're going to see impressive at bats from 1 to 9. So for me, the group of players that I'm looking at are whoever's coming out of the bullpen, after they take the starter out, and I think. Really important secondarily to have the starting pitcher. You got to get 6+ from your starting pitcher. You can't have one of these implosions in the 2nd or 3rd and really put your team at a disadvantage, because the Braves can kind of just separate the gap really, really quickly. So I'm thinking Phillies in 4. I'm thinking you're going to get a back end of the bullpen. The less we see of like the ancillary pieces, I think the more we recognize how impressive the really got the good guys at the top of the bullpen, how impressive they are statistically. So listen, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll come back, Eric. We'll touch a little bit on the other playoff series, and then we'll jump out of here. So we'll be right back.
Von C. Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery with a 2,500 square foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer garden in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C. family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer, and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Von C. Brewing is located at 1210 Stenbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
And La Torrens' curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to la-touraine.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.
All right, we're back. And listen, the playoff season, the postseason didn't start off the way that I thought it would, right? All 4 series, right? All get closed in 2 games. Let's start in the NL. Right, you've got the other NL series, right? The Diamondbacks go into Milwaukee and pretty handily take care of Milwaukee. What was impressive to you about the Diamondbacks and the way that series played out?
So, being at both games, I was scoreboard watching and checking on my phone every now and then, but I didn't actually get a chance to really watch any other. Today will be the first day I can watch another game all postseason so far. But in what I did see, the Diamondbacks offense just handled the pitching, right? And that we said on Monday when we did our preview, I think this is one series I did get correct when I was predicting this stuff. I thought the Diamondbacks would win, but the key was to neutralize the Brewers pitching staff, and they did that by putting up runs on them. So I think that was the most impressive thing. I think the Diamondbacks have, they could kind of go in and maybe, I think they can make some noise in LA too. Their offense is there. I think LA is going into a similar thing that Atlanta's going into, right? They haven't played in a while. You got the Diamondbacks coming in hot, right? It's kind of like what happened with the Phillies last year. They're coming off a solid wild card series. So I don't know, they might be able to make some noise there. I was really impressed with their offense. And then they have Gallen and Merrill Kelly, who are solid pitchers too. So they're right up there with them, I think.
I think the thing that impressed me the most was the power, right?
Yeah.
You saw, Corbin Carroll, just really, really impressive young player. You saw Gurriel, you saw a lot of production throughout the lot. And I think the thing that was most impressive for me, right, to see the power in game 2, where they weren't just hitting home runs, like they were hitting like moonshots. And at really vital points in the game, right, early on, they're able to just establish that lead and just kind of run with it. And then you see they got the horses at the top end of the rotation, right, to be able to have something similar, right, to the Wheeler Nola, right? You see the pitching at the top of the rotation, just really impressive. And like you said, it would not surprise me at all if that series goes 5. It wouldn't surprise me if Arizona is able to figure out a way to not just make it a series, but win it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Pitching wise, you got Kershaw going today, who struggles in the postseason.
Right.
I just do not see the Dodgers pitching even really being able to compete with the with the Diamondbacks pitching. Offense wise, the Dodgers obviously have a solid offense, right? You got Mookie, you got Freeman. Who else is out there right now? Why am I blanking? Anyway, they have enough guys on that team for some firepower. But I don't know. I think this Diamondbacks team has a shot, and like you said, take it 5 or maybe even win the series. So I think that'll be an interesting one to watch. I'm very interested in seeing how that series plays out.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all if you end up seeing like a Phillies Diamondbacks, NLCS.
That would be awesome, actually. But at the same time, like you got to imagine, like the national media outlets want to see LA get there just because of the market of it. But yeah, I would not be
I'm sure.
surprised at all. I would not be surprised.
In the AL, right? The Twins, who I thought I thought that they would have a tougher time. I thought the Blue Jays with they have a really young, impressive offensive lineup. I just was really surprised. I didn't get being in Philadelphia, right? We don't get a whole lot of Twins exposure, but really impressed by the way that they played.
Yeah, I know. Most of the season I've been talking trash on the AL Central and how boring of a division it is. Not me who hates the Twins, but they were kind of impressive actually. And now going up against Houston, I'm a Twins fan this week in the AL. So let's go Twins, my favorite AL Central team.
I think a lot of people, based on the history of the Astros over the course of the last couple seasons, it wouldn't surprise me. But Houston just seems to have like we saw last year, right? The offensive firepower throughout the lineup, just really impressive, right? They add to an already impressive lineup, right? They added guys to that. Mm-hmm. So in this series, I think that this, out of all of the playoff matchups, to me, this is the most lopsided one. It wouldn't surprise me if Houston sweeps, especially they're going to play the first two games in Houston. But I hope that the Twins, make it more of a series. And then the series that you were really excited to watch, right? Tampa and Texas. And Tampa goes, right, they don't have a super impressive fan base, as we talked about before.
Right.
But Texas basically went in there and just took care of business, which I did thinking about where their rotation was.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what we said on Monday. I really was impressed with the way they handled the Rays, and I was really unimpressed with the way the Rays handled that series. I mean, on paper, the Rays are a better team, and they just got absolutely manhandled by Texas. So I think Texas is coming in, pretty high now into the ALDS. But yeah, that was the one I was most surprised about. Now I think they're going to have to put up a bigger fight against Baltimore. I think Baltimore's better, and they'll see more of a fight here. But that was the biggest shock of the first that wild card round to me.
Yeah, that's the series, right? Baltimore is a team that I really want to see in that out of all the teams. That's the team that I'm really excited to see, because I feel like they peaked earlier than they thought they were going to. And a lot of really impressive young talent on that roster. And I'm just excited to see them in a playoffs, right? Because I feel like Baltimore is one of those baseball cities that anytime they're relevant and their fan base can show up, I feel like that's really good for baseball.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're ahead of where they thought they're going to be in terms of their rebuild. You have they're going to be scary good for a while, because all these guys are under team control for at least 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
So they're going to be good for a long time. And I think, like you said, Baltimore fans have to be so excited. I'm really curious I definitely want to watch part of that. I think that game starts at 1 today, right?
1 o'clock.
The early game. Yeah, I definitely want to watch that one, because I want to see what Camden Yards is like today. Because I think, like you said, I think those Baltimore fans are going to be fired up, and I'm excited for them. The Orioles have kind of been a team, we're kind of close to them. So if it came to actually having to play them, it could be a fun rivalry. But they've just been kind of bad and irrelevant for so long. I think those fans, it'll be exciting. It's exciting for them to see some good baseball, and a really exciting baseball team right now.
Yeah. So that game's going to tip off at 1. The Twins, Houston is going to pit. They're going to start at 4:30.
All right, that's
right. The Phillies game starts at 6, and then the Diamondbacks Dodgers is going to start at 9.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know it's West Coast. I know it's going to be it's a 6 o'clock start local time. But if this is one of those things where it's if you're trying to grow the fan base of the game as a whole. Every one of these games you should be able to watch them from coast to coast as a kid, right? I think about the kid aspect, right? And I think like even if you offset the games a little bit, like you could still start this game at 7:45, 8 o'clock, like to start it at 9, which we all know what that means. That game's not going to start until 5 or 10 after 9, which means it's not going to finish until close to midnight. I just feel like whenever you have playoff games, like the NFL handles that like beautifully, right? Because they have it line up right as the playoffs are starting, right? The college football season's over, right? So the NFL just slides right in and takes over Saturday. They put all those games on during the day. There's like one game at night. Like put this season, this really important postseason, in a place where it's viewable for everybody. Because I would love to watch that, but like to be honest, like I'm only going to be able to stay up for so late. I'm sure my nerves are going to be shot after watching this game. The Phillies game at 6.
Yeah, the amount I watch the Dodgers Diamondbacks game will definitely depend on the outcome of the Phillies game. I mean, watching a playoff game at 6 o'clock, there may be a few beverages consumed. So we'll see how we're doing by the end of the game, whether it's a happy time afterwards, or if I'm going to be a little bit depressed and seeing how much of that game I'm going to watch. But I do want to see that series. Like I said, I think it's going to be an exciting series, and it's good because there's a chance that the Phillies, if the Phillies win the series, they're going to play one of those teams, right? So I kind of want to see kind of a preview of what could come if we do have to face those teams. I get what you're saying. I get having to make it, but I also think I can see both sides of it. I can see why MLB is putting them on at 9 for the fans of that, because for them, you can't, because it's unfortunate for West Coast fans because they never can get like a primetime game, right? Because the East Coast it's 11 o'clock for us out here. So I see both sides of that. For me, like on a weeknight, school night, I'm not going to realistically watch an entire game that starts at 9:30. If it's the Phillies, I would be. But someone else, I'll watch part of it, whatever, tonight. And they don't play tomorrow. But tonight, I'll try to watch as much of that game as I can, just because I do want to see it.
Yeah, and to just talk about the rest of the schedule, right? So they're all going to play today, all 4 games, right? And then, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, it's going to alternate, right? So Sunday, it's just the AL. Monday, just the NL. Tuesday, just the AL. And then Wednesday. And this is the part where I'm talking about scheduling with MLB. You have a playoff game, a second-round playoff game, that's going to start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday.
Yes.
Like, how? How are you that tone deaf to realize that, like, yes, people will watch, but like you have people that work in other parts of the country, right, that would otherwise watch this game and now won't because they're going to play in Minnesota at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, it just screams that like we're completely tone deaf.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and also like the other thing was, I know I get everyone you couldn't predict how the wild card series were gonna pan out and all that, but how like the fact that it was a Friday night last night and there was not one postseason baseball game on was kind of a bummer. So I'm like, I really wish I could be watching a playoff game right now, but I couldn't. So I do see what you're saying there. I'm gonna take one more shot at the Twins. Realistically, 2 o'clock. No one's gonna be watching a Twins game anyway. But
listen, Eric, let's flip flop those 2 games though, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that we're both educators, right? So like, if you get the Phillies Braves game and that game starts at 2, guess what, kids?
We're watching the Phillies.
Mr. Conaway is logging into his cable provider and putting the game on, because like that to me is like you're again, unless you've got somebody like and talk about work productivity, right? The work productivity automatically goes down because everybody's dialed in to watch the games. But like to start a game, like even if you wanted to play an afternoon game, start that game at 4.
Yeah.
Like start that game when most people's work days are done. But again, that's just me on my soapbox going, like, what are we doing? MLB, come on.
Didn't the Phillies have the first game last year, the wild card round? Wasn't that? I remember because I definitely remember putting that game on in my classic for last period. So that was definitely an early one. And I'm like, listen, and luckily last season I had the excuse of, a lot of these kids haven't been able to see the Phillies in the postseason yet, so I was able to kind of make it work. But
absolutely. You have the kids collecting statistics during the game,
right? Exactly. You could make it work. Be like, oh man, like these kids are born, whenever. They haven't really seen playoff baseball in Philadelphia. Let's give them a shot to see it. So we could kind of spin it that way. This year, not as much, but luckily because of the Phillies being National League champs. And having one of the largest markets in the postseason this year without a New York team being in there or Boston or anything like that. We're lucky because we're getting better time.
Yeah, we're getting a better time.
Selfishly speaking, I'm fine with the way the Phillies have been scheduled this year. But last year, I know it was definitely it got a little dicey there for some of those afternoon games.
Oh, yeah. I remember I was dialed in. Like, I was like, all right, everybody, buckle up.
Yep.
It's study hall. But we're actually going to just watch the Phillies. Like,
you have to be doing something.
Yes, we have to have the computers out. We have to have things on the screen. But I'm also going to have this on just
for some background noise. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, though, it became a really cool bonding moment because I found out that there were a bunch of kids in my class that, watch the games with their parents. But I would have never not known otherwise because it wouldn't be normally something that they would volunteer. And it was And that was like the cool, really communal aspect, right? And then to jump right into final thoughts, that piece of like that connection and the fan base connection to each other, the fan base connection to the teams, just really cool. And I wanted to highlight something. I talked about it with Rich on our Junk on the Bird show, but like the guy who bought the entire section of beer at the game spent like, what was it, over $4,500?
I think it was $4,500. Yeah.
That to me, right, that idea of like doing something that's good for the good of people, but doing it with no expectation that it would be reciprocated. He didn't want the acknowledgement, didn't want the recognition. He just wanted to do something good. And I was like, you know what? That's great because it's, somebody might not be able to buy that entire section of beer, but they might go and buy someone else a beer, right? They might pay for the next guy in line. They might go to their local, bar and buy somebody something. So like just that paying it forward is just like was just a really cool thing to see and to see it highlighted.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. It was section 103, I believe. My season tickets 102. So that would have been I'm like, oh man, but I for the playoffs, I'm not in my season tickets anyway. But it's that was really cool to see. That is a lot of money. I remember Jamie Hoskins doing it last year, buying like a bunch of fans beers and everything. But their bank account's probably a little bit different than this guy, I would have to imagine. But still, super impressive. I would not be that guy, but I might buy someone else a beer. Yeah, like you were saying there, I might pay for it a little bit and buy one other person a beer. But there's no way I'm shelling out $4,500 there.
No. Listen, we're in education.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of things I might do, but spend $4,500 on beer, I wouldn't even do that for myself.
No, not in one day. Over the course of a year, maybe. But
yeah, also true. Listen, Eric, anything else you want to highlight on the way out?
No, I don't think so. I think we talked about it a little bit, but just getting out to an early start. I don't think the crowd in Atlanta is going to be as ruthless as it will be in Philly, but you don't want to let them kind of get into the game. I think if we can get a hot start and kind of take them out of the game early, get to Strider early, that's how we win this game. Getting to Strider, I would love to see a Schwarber leadoff home run today. That would be I next to the Stock Grand Slam, it will be the loudest I've been since last postseason. But I would love to see that happen. Just get off to a hot start, even if it's not a Schwarber leadoff shot. You got to get to him early. You got to get the fans out of the game early, and just put yourself in the best position to win today. I think.
Just make them question everything, man.
Yeah.
Listen, enjoy the games. we'll check in at some point whenever this series wraps up, and fingers crossed. Go Phils.
Yeah, go Phils.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the Fightins here. The Fightins. Said.
This is the Broad Street Line, where Philly sports fans leave all of their sports hot takes. Call 267-405-3062 and show us your passion for Philly sports. Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday at 8:30 when we listen to your live reactions to the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat.
The swing of the miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008